As I continued my cautious exploration of the upper levels, the sound of Josh's pained cries sliced through the silence, reverberating up the expansive staircase. Heart pounding, I hurried down, my footsteps echoing in the empty mansion. I became momentarily disoriented in the dark, and I stormed the main parlor, panting, straining to hear any sound. But there was nothing but the quiet. Where had I heard his yells coming from? I couldn't be sure, but his plan was to access the kitchen, so I carefully made my way towards the back of the house. There was another mournful yelp. I took a deep breath and kicked in the old kitchen service doors, and I trained my flashlight on the chaotic scene before me. The old woman was crouched before me, buck naked, swatting away at Josh's head with surprising ferocity with what looked like a gold candlestick. She sported some sort of dark tribal paint under her eyes, on the bridge of her nose, and on her cheeks. Her gaunt features twisted in a mixture of rage and glee. She was flat-chested, and her pale, sinewy, muscular body revealed very little fat. Josh, his bloody forearms raised in a feeble attempt to shield his skull, cowered beneath his short attacker as he moaned in pain. "Leave him alone, you old loon!" I screeched, filled with a mixture of rage and panic. To my surprise, the old woman looked directly at me with blood dripping from her mouth. How had I missed that? Did she bite Josh? She hissed at me like a rabid animal, the sound sending a chill down my spine. It barely sounded human. "Shut your face, tramp!" she boomed. "If he can swing it, he can bring it!" With a surge of adrenaline, I growled and lunged at her, my hands connecting with the woman's athletic frame, pushing her off balance and sending her upper torso crashing against several meticulously arranged wooden figurines on top of her kitchen island. The candlestick clattered to the ground, its golden surface glinting in the dim light. Josh, still dazed and bleeding, struggled to regain his bearings. He managed to pull himself to his feet, his eyes flickering with a mixture of confusion and determination. Meanwhile, the old woman, undeterred by the setback, made a focused grab for a butcher's knife laying on the counter. Before she could reach for it, Josh and I moved in, shoving her to the floor. For a moment, she cackled like a lunatic and smiled crazily at us. Then, she started chanting foreign, unrecognizable words, her angry wide eyes darting between the two of us. "To hell with this," Josh muttered. A brief, intense struggle ensued, the woman putting up an incredible amount of resistance despite her size and age. But with our combined effort, Josh and I managed to finally overpower her, and Josh subdued her with a well-executed sleeper hold. He let go of her, and she collapsed to the floor onto her back. "What the hell was that?" he groaned, massaging his throbbing head. "That rabid beast bit my arm. If you hadn't shown up, she would have ripped a chunk out of me. I'm gonna have to get a tetanus shot." "She's got some fight in her, I'll give her that. She sure scrambled your eggs," I observed. I patted Josh on his shoulder. "She's keeping human skulls like trophies," I snorted with a mixture of disbelief and dark humor. "Where?" Josh chuckled, his incredulity evident. "Upstairs," I said. "It's creepy as hell. There's also stuffed cats, dogs, and birds everywhere." Oddly enough, we didn't pursue this weird discovery. We had our sights set on more important things. We gathered ourselves and reevaluated our approach in light of the old woman's unexpected strength and tenacity. With calculated efficiency, we moved the unconscious woman to an upstairs bedroom, securing her with a makeshift gag and bindings to a sturdy four-poster bed. She soon awoke and began to struggle weakly, but she couldn't get out of our secure restraints. Josh trained his flashlight on our prisoner. We noticed that she sported an ugly old flat scar on the underside of her left arm. It looked like someone had dragged a broken beer bottle across her flesh. I momentarily removed the gag and asked her if there was anyone else in the mansion. "You actually think I'm going to tell you trash birds anything?" The old woman scowled. "Yup, that's what I thought," I sighed as I put the gag back in her mouth. "That cut, though," Josh muttered. "I hate old people. I actually hate my well-to-do parents. Josh hates his mom and dad just as much. He helped me to beat up my mom and my dad and steal the cash they had on them when they tried to stop me from leaving town with him. They wanted to send me away, overseas to some all-girls school in Switzerland. Can you imagine that? Me in some school without guys? I couldn't have that. Josh was my soulmate, and anyone who tried to keep me from him was in for a world of hurt. "Lisa, baby, this isn't you," my stupid mother pleaded. "Yes, Mother. It's definitely me," I snickered. I kicked her and dear old Dad in their sides once we beat them to the living room floor. We were soon jumping into Josh's van, and my father had staggered to the door. "You're going to die out there," he groaned at us. Maybe we would, I thought. You can't live forever. Anyway, over the course of the next 24 hours, we systematically searched and ransacked 19 rooms in the old mansion, scouring every nook and cranny for people and for valuables. The one room we couldn't manage to breach was the locked master suite. We made a mental note to return to it a little later. Amidst the chaos, we stumbled upon the woman's personal documents, including a deed to the house. Jackpot! Her name was Nancy Jules Franklin. As we regrouped to process our findings, Josh admitted defeat in his search for the car keys, but that had been our only major setback thus far. That, the locked master bedroom, and the gnarly bleeding bite wound Josh had sustained. I found some isopropyl alcohol and a first aid kit in a bathroom, and I managed to sanitize the wound and cover it with gauze and a large bandage. He needed stitches, but there was nothing that we could do about it at the time. Josh hadn't had a chance to cut the phone lines, so later that day, we used the woman's desktop computer in her library to research her and her property. We delved into online news articles, government records, and databases. We confirmed our suspicions by discovering that she was indeed a friendless recluse with no family ties. Her refusal to sell her property had raised eyebrows among the Dead Tree Town Council. They were eager to redevelop Franklin's neighborhood, which was now experiencing rapid urban decay. Digging deeper, Josh uncovered a piece of interesting trivia. Nancy's entire immediate family, father, stepmother, 3 brothers, and 2 sisters, had perished in a tragic factory fire coinciding with Nancy's return from abroad. Nancy had always been a loner and had left home at the age of 15 to attend some fancy girls' boarding school overseas. She was estranged from all of her family members, but held a fondness for her father. Thomas Franklin, the patriarch, married Pamela Evers, a recently divorced socialite. Apparently, there was bad blood between Pamela and Nancy from the start. Upon Nancy returning from Borneo after her 7-year stay with headhunters, Pamela expressed grave concerns to Thomas about Nancy being on the premises or at their wedding. Apparently, Thomas was putty in her hands and gave her whatever she wanted. There were many articles about Thomas buying his new wife noteworthy and expensive works of art, only for her to auction them off at Christie's a few weeks later and keep the profits for herself in a Swiss bank account. Allegedly, Pamela's manipulation of Nancy's father got Nancy written out of his will. After the fire, however, Nancy, the last Franklin standing, took possession of the family's entire fortune, solidifying her status as the sole heir. Curiouser and curiouser, Josh laughed in disbelief. That old hag has some serious skeletons in her closet. It's obviously an open secret that she had something to do with ending her entire family, but I don't see any mention of that in the gossip columns. Her entire family died in a fire. That's crazy. Suspicious, don't you think? And what about those weird heads? You think she's into that voodoo stuff? I asked uncomfortably. What was she chanting earlier? I don't want her putting any curses on me. Relax, she's not going to be doing anything, Josh muttered, mesmerized by the online database he scrolled through. Old girl attacked me in the nude with war paint on her face, so if she's whack with a sketchy past, that will just make our lives easier. Who's going to believe her if she does end up saying anything to anyone? I grinned. True. That night, Josh finally got around to kicking in the doors to the empty master bedroom suite, and we found 2 more shrunken heads mounted above a supersized 4-poster bed. One shrunken head was larger than the other. But we'd seen weirder things on the freaky streets of Portland, to be honest. Josh was more upset because he still couldn't find the keys to the Continental in this room. This bedroom was colossal, had really nice furnishings, and it had an awesome jacuzzi tub with all sorts of water jets. Needless to say, Josh and I decided to make it ours, and I enjoyed the best bath of my entire life that night. It never occurred to us to either remove the skulls from the wall over our new bed, as we did the wild thing in it, or to question Nancy about where she was getting human skulls from in the first place. I guess we just assumed that she had collected them from some dank overseas dealer, as you do when you're batshit crazy and filthy rich.